Today we are joined by Moriyasu, Senior Fellow at the Hudson Institute and correspondent. We will discuss the impact of the Iran conflict and Eurasian corridors and how initiatives such as C6+1 and the Trump route for international peace and prosperity are shaping the regional balance. Mr. Moriyasu, thank you for accepting our interview. How have the Iran conflict and its aftermath changed the strategic importance of road, rail, logistic, and energy corridors across Eurasia? In this context, what role do the Trump route for international peace and prosperity project and the Middle Corridor play?
Yeah, I think the war in Iran, the crisis in Iran has only underscored the vulnerabilities of the maritime choke points in the world. China, from 15 years ago, has gradually been shifting away from the maritime sea routes, especially in the Indian Ocean, and moving towards the pipelines in the Eurasian landmass. For instance, the gas pipeline to Turkmenistan or the oil pipeline from Kazakhstan, they have been shifting towards that. That's the first strategy. The second strategy is renewable energy that they're moving to. And the third one is electricity. They're burning coal for their electricity. All of this is an attempt to move away from the maritime sea routes, which could be closed off by the Americans or by conflict. And I think Japan and South Korea, which are very dependent on the Persian Gulf, have also felt the dangers of relying too much on these choke points. So Japan, for instance, has started to try to import oil from Kazakhstan through the Middle Corridor, through Azerbaijan, Georgia, Turkey, to the Mediterranean. It's not clear whether they can bring it through the Suez Canal. If they cannot, they have to go through South of Africa, which would dramatically increase the costs. But there is an understanding that we cannot rely too much on the Persian Gulf anymore.
In an era of intensifying competition between the United States, China, and Russia, what kind of balancing strategy should member states of the Organization of Turkic States pursue?
Yeah, so I think Japan, the US, and the Western world has wrongly focused too much on the Indo-Pacific maritime theater. For the reasons I explained earlier, China is moving away from those maritime roads into the Eurasian heartland. And together with Russia, they are trying to establish a zone in which the energy pipelines don't depend on the West. Territorially, they're inaccessible to the US Navy. And also they're trying to build a currency system that doesn't rely on the US dollar so that they're immune from US sanctions. So Hal Brands of Johns Hopkins University calls this Fortress Eurasia. And this is what is happening. So for the US and the Western world, it's very important to understand where China and Russia are moving their assets and their energy and their focus to. And in this endeavor, if the West wants to counter this, the strategy is to prevent this Eurasian fortress from dominating the Eurasian landmass. For that, the swing states, which I call them, the countries which are not really fixed in one camp, but are on the fence. These swing states will be very important, and all of those swing states are in the Organization of Turkic States.
So, how do you position the Organization of Turkic States within the broader context of Eurasia's swing states and great power competition?
Yeah, so the Organization of Turkic States, I think, from a few years ago has really been, well, first they changed their name from the Turkic Council to the Organization of Turkic States, and they have really increased, I think, the frequency with which they're meeting. And the content of their discussions has deepened from just cultural, linguistic ties to more alignment on foreign policy and also security as well. So this is very interesting to watch. I think in the future, they will be much more stronger than the ASEAN, Southeast Asian Association, for instance, because ASEAN is 10 countries of really emerging Asian economies, but they have different religions, they have different ethnicities. They're very seldom on the same page. I think the Organization of Turkic States has much more coherence through its culture, through its religion, through its the people, the linguistic ties. And in a few years, 5 years, 10 years down the road, it will be a much more unified bloc. And if that bloc becomes a major power, I think it's important for the US, Japan, South Korea to engage with that organization much more.
So, how should member states at the same time approach both China's Belt and Road Initiative and Western-led projects?
Yeah, I mean, it's only natural for these swing states to get the benefits from both sides. It's not, the US strategy should not be to replace China or to block China from having any dealings. The middle corridor runs from China through these Turkic states to Europe. That's good, as long as China is happy and making money. That's good for China. The strategy should be that as China increases its dependence on the middle corridor, that the middle corridor goes through countries that have good relations with the US. They're not dominated by China. I think that's the strategy. That's the goal of the strategy.
So, what will the proposed expansion of the current C5+1 framework between the United States and Central Asian countries into a C6+1 format change? Could strengthening Trans-Caspian connectivity through C6+1 reduce over-reliance on any single power and enhance regional stability?
Yeah, so the Trump administration has rightly focused on Central Asian countries, and they invited the leaders of Central Asia to the White House in November last year. And that was followed by Vice President J.D. Vance's visit to Azerbaijan and Armenia. And there is a possibility that the C5+1 will gather again in September on the sidelines of the United Nations, possibly adding Azerbaijan to make it a C6+1. What I'm hearing is that as of now, these Central Asian countries are planning to send just their foreign minister. But if Trump wants to continue the momentum from the last November's meeting at the White House, he could very well extend an invitation to the leaders. And if there is an invitation from Trump, they will not say no. So that will be a golden opportunity for the C6+1 to hold its first meeting on the sidelines of the UN. When the C5 countries met at the White House last year, the Uzbekistan president proposed holding the next C5+1 in Samarkand in Uzbekistan. Trump very much would like to go, I think. He would be the first sitting American president to visit Central Asia. I'm hearing that due to the schedule, that probably will be next year or beyond. But I'm also hearing that Secretary of State Marco Rubio is planning to go to Central Asia this year. So that'll be a very important step as the US Trump administration deepens engagement with Central Asia.